do you respond to those people?
Oh, I appreciate that question. That's one of the many reasons why I like to be in dialogue with you all, because I come to learn and I come to listen. The first thing I would say is that I've always referred to both Biden and Trump as brothers, because I start from a Christian sensibility. I think I've been consistent in that regard, going back to the
Yes, you have.
video, but even many, many years before. Now, I've never used friend because that's different. But when from a certain Christian perspective, a brother and sister is a human being made in the image and likeness of God, who has the capacity to change. So that a reference to their brotherhood and sisterhood is simply their capacity to go another way, in the language of my own Black Baptist tradition. See, so but when I then say, okay, I say brother Trump, and you can imagine all kind of folk think I lost my mind and things.
Yeah.
But I don't say things for just popularity. I say things based on what I believe. But then I do call him a fascist. I do call him a fascist, because a fascist is someone who does not believe in the democratic transfer of power. A fascist is someone who defends the power of big military, defends the power of big money, scapegoats the most vulnerable, and tries to convince the citizenry that they are powerless and hopeless without him as the Pied Piper. He's the only one who comes to the rescue. He's the only one who is the deliverer. Now, every country has its own historically specific form of fascism. Hitler in Germany and Mussolini in Italy, we can go on and on. Salazar in Portugal and what have you. In the United States, the closest thing we've had is a Trump at the presidential level who can satisfy all of those characteristics. Now, when you look at United States as a settler colonial experiment for indigenous peoples, America has always been fascist.
Yes.
Because it's a war against them for 400 years.
Yep.
And their land is the precondition of American democracy. The stolen land, the violation of their precious peoples. For those of us who are descendants of the dignified Africans who were enslaved, America has also looked fascist. 89 years on the U.S. Constitution of slavery, another 100 years of neo-slavery, and then the new Jim Crow and the mass incarceration and the hoods and the decrepit schools and so forth, right? So that the vantage points is very important here. So when I talk about Biden, I usually talk about Biden as a milquetoast neoliberal. Neoliberalism is a class war against poor and working people that disproportionately impacts brown and Black and indigenous peoples. But I talk about his imperial policy, be it in the Middle East, for Palestinians. For Palestinians, any U.S. administration looks fascist, because they are abetting and enabling the vicious killing of innocent Palestinians. So I try to include all of that in my analysis. But I'll say this to my brothers and sisters who would want me to shift in my language. I do not for a minute believe that all the followers of Trump are fascists. I think he is. I don't think the followers are.
I think that's what they're reading into that. I think that's really what the pushback is that they feel the attack on.
They think I'm calling them a fascist.
Yeah, I think that's what it must be. That it must be that, because I can
one out
understand
of
any
8 supported my dear brother Bernie. And in addition to that, they are responding to the failed policies of the Democratic Party that has abandoned poor people in so many ways, betrayed working people in so many ways, and because they can't find an alternative anywhere else, they see it in Trump.
Right.
And so I go to them, and I go to them first as brothers and sisters, give them my own, I know a lot of people think I lost my mind being a Christian, and then we won't get into all that. But this is just, my way of being in the world, and I hope they can tolerate it. But secondly, I would say I see human beings who are following Trump, who are making choices to support a fascist. It doesn't make them fascists. It means they're making choices to support a fascist. Now, there are fascists in the country who do support Trump. We know that. The Klan and the others made that very clear. We saw that in Charlottesville a few years ago. You see. But on the other hand, I also say for those who support Biden,
yeah, it's the same
with
thing.
The authoritarian fascist face of neoliberalism, vis-a-vis indigenous peoples, vis-a-vis black folk, vis-a-vis victims of U.S. imperial policies. I say to them that they can also go another way, but they don't realize how they are facilitating forms of evil, even as they claim that they're so obsessed with the evil on Trump's side or on the Republican Party's side. They're in denial about the forms of evil that Biden himself, either in the past, have facilitated, crimes against humanity, mass incarceration, that shall forever be a major stain on Biden's record. And people want to just erase it as if you can just go away. No, you don't create a mass incarceration regime with levels of barbarity that I've been blessed to teach in, to be able to spend time with my brothers. And I'll never sell those brothers down the river in claiming that somehow we can look away from the consequences of that mass incarceration regime. And the same would be true with Wall Street greed and credit card company greed and so forth that Biden's been complicitous with. So in that sense, my answer is that I'm just trying to the best of my fallible ability, to tell the truth